So right off the bat, first story, you guys are going to be super interested in this one, I think, hot off the press. And this is the ETF, Ethereum spot ETF news, of course. So right before this show started, we did get the news that the SEC has approved all 8 of the pending spot Ethereum ETF applications. So this is going to be a thing imminently. I'm not sure if they can get it listed tomorrow or at the latest, it'll be trading live next week. So this comes off the back where the SEC first approved spot Bitcoin ETFs back in January. And if you guys remember back then, the SEC chairman, Gary Gensler, he was super anti any other crypto ETFs, right? It was like, we're going to approve Bitcoin, but this is just because we think that Bitcoin is a commodity, and we've always said that. But all the other ones, it's like it was a hard no. Back then, back in January, I was super pessimistic on any other ETFs potentially getting approved, just because ETFs for other cryptocurrencies. I mean, just because Gary Gensler seems super hostile towards it, and I was very bearish on the chances of an Ethereum ETF. But it seems like just within a matter of like 2 weeks, the SEC did a complete 180, and it was I think the Bloomberg analyst, who's like the primary guy that keeps track of all this ETF news. His name is Eric Balchunas. I follow him on Twitter or X or whatever it's called now, yeah, you guys should all follow him if you are interested in this kind of stuff. But Balchunas was saying, I think he was saying that there was only a 25% chance that the ETF was going to get approved in May, which was the first wave of like final deadlines for the pending Ethereum ETF deadlines. But just a week ago, he suddenly, out of nowhere, just updated his chances to a 75% chance. And then we started hearing rumors that the SEC was requesting for comments on these forms called the 19B4 filings, which is just a form that you have to fill out before you, when you submit an ETF application. So the SEC asked for comments, and then, the ball started rolling really fast. And then, I think by the time that today rolled around, even before the day ended today, in my mind, there was like a 95% chance that this was going to get approved, because we saw all the signs that it was going to get approved. And sure enough, right before this show started, it was confirmed that it was approved. I just shared some of the screenshots of just relevant tweets that I thought was interesting. So, Shibatoshi Nakamoto is, I think his name is Billy. His real name is Billy Marquez. He's one of the founders of Dogecoin, one of the inventors of Dogecoin. And he said, the SEC a month ago, Ethereum is a security, and we won't ever approve a spot ETF. And then the SEC a week ago is like, Ethereum is a security, we won't ever approve a spot Bitcoin, spot Ethereum ETF. And the SEC today, it's like, hey, by the way, you guys update your update your forms, because this is happening. And then I commented on that. And this is kind of just like my opinion on maybe what has transpired. And I wanted to maybe get you guys' thoughts on it too. But what I think really happened was another piece of news, which was Trump coming out in support of crypto last week. Basically, I think this was, I'm going to see if I can find a clip of that. But basically, Trump was at a campaign rally and somebody asked him about crypto. And then, Trump, knowing that the Biden administration and the Democrats are mostly against crypto, he was like, okay, I'm going to be like for crypto. I'm going to like make America be a place where crypto people want to be, right? Basically, he wasn't like super enthusiastic about it. He was just like, I'm fine with crypto. Like, I'm not going to crack down on it. I'm just fine with it. Like, he didn't like fully endorse it, but I think even that was enough to maybe scare the Democrats into like being a little bit less harsh on crypto, just because, as I said, I tweeted another tweet a while ago that around 15 to 20% of Americans own crypto, according to the latest studies. So, in my opinion, that is probably because Biden didn't want to, unnecessarily piss off the people that own crypto. So, this is kind of like what I responded to Shibatoshi was, you forgot the most important part that came between SEC a week ago and SEC today, which was Trump saying, "I'm kind of fine with crypto." And that's all it took, right? And just to drive home the point a little bit further, this is Slum Doge Millionaire, and I believe that this is the Dogecoin millionaire guy, if you guys remember him from last cycle, where he like took out a bunch of lines of credit and stuff like that and went all in on Dogecoin, and then at peak his portfolio was worth $1 million, and he only put in like I don't know like $20,000 or something like that. But I don't think he probably isn't a millionaire anymore, considering that Dogecoin has fallen quite a bit since the peak. But hey, like Dogecoin has gone up substantially as well recently, so maybe he'll be a millionaire again soon. But in any case, he tweeted, "It's like, hey, I might have to vote for Trump this time," and this is in response to Donald Trump's campaign saying that they will build a Bitcoin and crypto army to go against Joe Biden and the Democrats, whom, if you remember, Elizabeth Warren, who's a pretty big senator, pretty famous senator from the Democratic side, she campaigned for her reelection to the Senate on a message of building an anti-crypto army. So Trump is kind of, seizing upon that and saying that he's going to do the opposite of what Elizabeth Warren is doing. You can't say that this doesn't work, because the Slum Doge millionaire guy, he seems like he's a pretty young guy, right? So usually young people tend to be more left-leaning, so they tend to be more likely to vote for Biden than Trump, I would say, in general, right? Obviously, there's a lot of exceptions. However, I just think that in general, it is true that young people are more left-leaning. So if Biden is super against crypto, then this has the potential to alienate a significant part of the population, and for no good reason too, right? It's not like Biden is really gaining anything, in my opinion, from being really harsh on crypto. Maybe he has like some donors from like big banks and stuff that might get pissed off. But yeah, I don't really see a benefit. But let me toss the question back to you guys, though. Maybe I've said too much of my opinion already. I don't want to poison you guys' thoughts, but let me toss the question back to you guys. Do you think that today's SEC decision to allow for Ethereum spot ETFs has anything to do with Trump changing his stance? And do you think that like Gary Gensler got an angry phone call from Biden to like change his stance or anything like that? Like, do you think to what degree is politics involved in today's decision, do you think?
Um, like it could just be like completely coincidental. Like, in the fact of the matter, we truly don't know. But I think the coincidences are super close to each other. So I think there always is a slight possibility that I think Trump's interest in cryptocurrency is like a part of why that the Ethereum ETF like kind of sort of accelerated. And I guess in terms of his political campaign, that also could help him in term two as well, and then not help Biden so much. And if you're saying that Biden might be talking to a few people, and then those few people might like want to change his mind, like maybe Biden will come into a different shoulder from like left to right, so to speak. We don't know. I guess time will tell. And yeah, I think it's just really interesting what's going on right now. We've gone a pretty long way. Like before, there was like no Bitcoin ETFs or Ethereum ETFs, and then look at where we are now. It's pretty fascinating. I think Canada had some like Bitcoin ETFs before, but still, I think it's really fascinating, and it's only going to be better for us just because, of course, we're all in it. So the more the merrier, and to the moon, let's go.
Yeah, Canada, fun fact, Canada actually approved both Bitcoin spot ETFs and Ethereum spot ETFs at the same time back in, I think this was like summer of 2021. And yeah, I actually have like a little bit of both. I have more Bitcoin than Ethereum, but it's like I have a little bit of the Ethereum, the Canadian Ethereum ETF as well. Yeah, Tristan, your thoughts. To what extent do you think politics played a role here?
Yeah, I think that it's a pretty fair assessment that Trump basically being like crypto is all right with me, and that having an impact on their decision. I think it's pretty fair to say that that's quite possible. I'm not 100% certain, obviously, but based on their kind of reaction and the quick turnaround with this, now Biden can go to the crypto bros. Hey, I allowed the Bitcoin ETF and the Ethereum ETF, right? So I'm with you guys. I'm on your side, right? To kind of alleviate some of that people leaning towards voting for Trump, in contrast because of the difference with the belief that maybe Trump is more pro crypto versus Biden, who's seemingly pretty anti crypto. But either way, Biden can go, oh, I allowed these ETFs. It's all not my contributions. So I think that there's probably some aspect to that. I'm not sure to what extent there is, but I think that's the important part. Yeah, I think, is there any other questions for that I missed?
Yeah, no, I mean, I was just gonna make a comment because it's funny how like people were saying that Gary Gensler is like the most hostile SEC chairman towards crypto of all time, and everyone's like, crapping on Gensler for this and that, for suing Coinbase, suing Robinhood, suing like bunch of crypto companies. But you can't deny that it was under Gensler that both the ETFs for Bitcoin and Ethereum were approved. So, maybe Gensler is not that bad after all. Like, it's, people criticize him a lot, but it's under him that like crypto has progressed a lot in America. Right now, we have ETFs for both Bitcoin and Ethereum. So, yeah, just another graphic actually that I want to share before we move on to the second part of this story is that, yeah, just to back up what I said earlier about, kind of crypto getting bipartisan support, right? So before we kind of talked about crypto in the sense that like Republicans are for it and Democrats are against it. Well, it seems like that is actually shifting and is like less of a case now than it was before. It's still like more Republicans support it than Democrats. But if you guys look at the next part, this was a vote on a bill called FIT 21. I forgot what it stands for, but essentially it's like a regulatory framework that Coinbase and a bunch of other crypto companies are in support of, saying that it'll give the space more regulatory clarity. Basically, like the passage of this FIT Act would mean that like the United States would take a more regulatory approach, more like clearer regulatory approach to regulating crypto, and move farther away from the idea of having to like ban everything and prevent people from self-custodying all this stuff. So this was a bill that was heavily opposed by some Democrats who are in the, let's just say, Elizabeth Warren camp of anti-crypto army. I think one of the chief opponents was Republican or Democratic Congressman Brad Sherman, who's kind of the voice of the anti-crypto army in the House of Representatives, versus Elizabeth Warren is kind of the anti-crypto leader in the Senate. But anyways, regardless of their opposition of it, you can see the final tally. It was 136 nays and 276 yays. So it and out of that 279 yays, it was 208 Republicans and 71 Democrats. So it's still more Democrats oppose it than was for it, but a lot of Democrats did cross the line and vote with the Republicans, which is kind of rare, right? Because like with these days, with the increased political divide, it's like you hardly see anything that's bipartisan anymore. But on giving crypto a clear regulatory framework, this bill did pass. So yeah, this just goes to show my point earlier, where I think that being anti-crypto is is a dead end, right? Like you're going to get voted out. You might not get voted out this election, and you might not get voted out next election, but if you continue down the pathway of being anti-crypto, you're going to get voted out eventually. And this is kind of what I was trying to say. Now, the second part of this story is that I wanted to talk about was, what do you guys think about the Ethereum ETF in general? Like, would this be something that you're interested in adding to your portfolio? Why or why not? What do you think is going to come after the Ethereum ETF, right? Because I've heard rumors that people are saying that, okay, after we get this done, then there might be a Solana ETF at some point, right? Or if we get a Solana ETF, what's to stop there for me a Dogecoin ETF? So do you think that this opens the floodgate to a bunch of other ETFs down the line? And lastly, what do you think it's gonna, like, do you think this will affect Bitcoin, right? Because I know we're mostly Bitcoin centric channel, but I do want to talk about kind of the whole space in general. So what do you think of the impact to the whole space when the spot Ethereum ETF is approved, as it just has been? And number two, do you think that this opens the door to other ETFs of other cryptocurrencies? And number three, are you interested in adding this product potentially to your portfolio?
I'm gonna go on and say first and foremost, the vote for like the Senate vote was quite interesting. I think if you're like straying further and further away from like Bitcoin, I think you're at a loss. Honestly, like money talks, it looks like it's the situation here. So if you move towards the money, I think you'll be fine in a better place and you'll be okay. And I can't remember every single question, but I'll try to answer everything as much as possible. And if I miss anything, just like interrupt me, let me know. And in terms of my opinions of the Ethereum ETF and like what's to come with it, I think it's really cool. I think in a sense it does inevitably like provide opportunity for other potential like cryptocurrency ETFs. I can realistically see like Solana being the case. Like I actually do want Solana right now, but I don't own it currently just because I'm waiting for like another dip. I know arguably, I know Andy always says like, oh, you could probably buy it now. I think it's at a pretty reasonable price, but I don't know. I'll just wait a bit longer. I should be okay. Or maybe I won't. We'll see. I might regret it. Anyway, so as for like Dogecoin, I'm not exactly sure if that's going to happen anytime soon. I feel like it's a little trolly, but I mean, again, like I said before, if money talks, then I think all will be good. And then at the end, like inevitably, it'll be like pretty trolls, but it could be an ETF, like who knows? And if I myself am like interested in buying a Ethereum ETF, like I'm interested in buying another stock, which for retention, we're going to be talking about later. So be sure to tune into the end. We know what we're talking about because it's in the docket, but I'm not going to mention it quite yet. You're going to have to figure out by watching it to the end. I'm interested in investing into that stock specifically. So when I buy the stock that you don't know about and you have to watch to the end to find out, then I might transfer over to the Ethereum ETFs. But I don't know if I would buy the American one. If you were mentioning that there are Canadian versions, I think I would do that instead just because I don't want to, or just because I don't want to get screwed over by conversion, currency conversion. But yeah, did I miss anything or is that everything? Nice background, by the way. Thought I didn't mention that.
AI, that's a hint to that stock that Dom is gonna talk about later. Just AI, one word. Anyways, yeah. No, I think you mostly answered the question. Like, cool. Do you think that this, like, I guess maybe you could elaborate a little bit more, like, on what you think the impact is gonna be on Bitcoin, and like, do you think that this is like a bullish thing for Bitcoin or not? Because like I've heard arguments from both sides, right? Some people say that this is going to draw in more money to the space in general. And then people are going to, like maybe people are interested in Ethereum first, but then they get interested in Bitcoin after they come into the space. But some people are saying that, hey, like, especially the Bitcoin maxis, the people who don't like Ethereum are like, hey, this is a distraction. You're going to mislead people. And then like, people are going to hold Ethereum and then they're going to lose money because the Bitcoin maxis think that Ethereum is going to crash. And then, it's going to leave a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. And it's going to suck away attention and money from Bitcoin. Like which side do you think you're more on? Like, do you think that this is good for Bitcoin, or is it bad for Bitcoin that now we have a spot Ethereum ETF?
Well, like in my honest opinion, I think it's fantastic for Bitcoin, and here's kind of why. So, let's just like go to like the stock market and then come back. So, like with the stock market, I think generally you would want more retail investors to be investing into the stock market on top of like hedge funds and whatnot. I think the more exposure to the stock market and the more people investing to the stock market and the more economic flow of the market, it is better inevitably in the end. So it's the same thing for cryptocurrency. So like let's say for example this Ethereum ETF is out. That's kind of like the step up on the staircase for people to get slightly more exposure to cryptocurrency. If they get more slightly uh, into the whole cryptocurrency space, they might do a little bit of research perhaps and then venture into more like cryptocurrencies. Let's say they start with Ethereum, maybe they'll go to Bitcoin or other way around. I think it just generally promotes more growth, and then more exposure. The more people, more like flow into the cryptocurrency space. So I think it's definitely a good thing, and I see it doing well in the future for sure. So
Yeah, all fair points. Tristan, you want to add your thoughts to this?
Yeah, so I'll jump in here on that's topic right off the bat, because I think that it's definitely something that is more bullish for Bitcoin in general, and it basically my thought process is similar to what Dominic was saying with like how more people getting involved in the space. Maybe they start with Ethereum, but then do additional research and opt to swap to Bitcoin in the end, because I think that a lot of the time Bitcoin looks really expensive. So going for Bitcoin right off the bat is really hard to justify when you're starting out. You're like, you look at one of the cheaper ones and you go, oh, okay, I'll try doing that one. And you don't, and I feel like a lot of people don't want to go with the least like super unknown ones. So with Ethereum being kind of the cheaper alternative to Bitcoin at a glance, I think a lot of people will start with Ethereum and then move to Bitcoin. And part of my reason for this belief is that's because that's basically what I did. Was that when I started buying cryptocurrencies, I basically bought Ethereum and basically no Bitcoin. And then over time, I flipped to basically no Ethereum. Actually, at this point, I have functionally zero Ethereum. And
I've read a lot of
everything is
people.
Bitcoin.
I bet a lot of people heard that like initial part and it's like shame. The Bitcoin maxis, you just like pissed off a bunch of them. But the second one was good, so you saved it.
I was just gonna say, well, they can come for me because I flipped completely. I think Ethereum's kind of a shit coin. So I'm not gonna lie. That kind of flows into my thought process for the ETF, which is I will not be adding it to my portfolio because I think from my perspective, Bitcoin, I tend to be more in the Bitcoin maxi school of thought, in that Bitcoin is the only one that's really worth anything. Every other coin is to some extent a shit coin. And because of that fact, in my opinion, Ethereum is a shit coin. And so purchasing and holding the Ethereum ETF, what's the value that I'm going to get from it? Because long term, in my opinion, I'd be better off holding Bitcoin or Bitcoin related stuff in basically every scenario than holding what I believe is basically, garbage or valueless. So, and I know this is a little bit aggressive. I know that people think that like Ethereum and stuff, you've got like NFTs and all that, but like I don't think they're particularly valuable. And until Ethereum really has a differentiator than Bitcoin, that's not just basically that a core or a foundation controls a lot of the information, a lot of the updates and everything, and that they're doing staking and stuff. Like it's basically, in my opinion, Ethereum is not something that I really get a lot of value from or see a lot of value within. And so that kind of is why I'm pretty anti not anti, but like I'm not going to buy the the Ethereum ETF because it just doesn't jive with my thought process. And maybe the Ethereum ETF will perform really well and have a great time. That wouldn't even surprise me. I would be perfectly fine with the ETF doing well. It's just not something that I'm going to buy when I have Bitcoin and other Bitcoin alternatives to purchase. And so flowing into the last question on that one, do I think that this is kind of a gateway to other cryptocurrencies becoming a ETF also, such as Solana, which I would think would be the most likely next candidate? And I think in that case, yes. I think that it's pretty hard to come up with a strong argument as to why Ethereum is a commodity and Solana isn't, because everything Ethereum does, Solana basically also does. Every piece of value, with the exception of like some of the Ethereum specific stuff. Which again, I don't think is what has determined that Ethereum is a commodity for the sake of the ETF. So in that regard, I feel like this is very much like they've opened the floodgates for other cryptocurrencies, because as kind of my opinion, kind of flowing from the more Bitcoin maxi school of thought, is that since basically every other coin, in my opinion, is kind of a shit coin. So, for example, even Solana is a shit coin, in my opinion. The fact that they've allowed an ETF to exist for a shit coin in the first place, basically, like, for me, there's a difference between Bitcoin itself and Ethereum and its magnitudes, right? And since they've allowed the different one, if they've done just Bitcoin, I could see them preventing all of the other shit coins. But by allowing one of the shit coins to go through, they've now opened the floodgates for all of the other ones to be considered in the same route. And so, in my opinion, that's basically what they've done. And to be clear, it's not me saying that you shouldn't own other cryptocurrencies. My thought process is more so like you can trade other cryptocurrencies. You want to play other cryptocurrencies, that's your decision. None of this is financial advice, but in my opinion, for the long-term future hold, the Bitcoin is something that I think has an inherent value to it, and every other coin does not. And because of that fact, every other coin is at best going to be a trading tool. And so with that in mind, I'd be perfectly happy if they released a Solana ETF, because I personally have some Solana and I would love to offload that at a good price. And that kind of covers my hot take central.
No, you know what? Like, I actually agree with like almost all of what you, like 95% of what you just said. And for me, I know like people tend to think of me as a Bitcoin maxi as well, but I don't really think of it that way. I focus the majority of my time on Bitcoin specifically. But again, I hold Solana. I hold some Solana, not as much as I hold Bitcoin. I hold some Ethereum. Again, not as much Bitcoin. As my like Solana position is smaller than my Bitcoin position, right? But yeah, I just think of it from a capitalist perspective, right? Like, it's like what has the potential to make more money in like a short to medium term, right? Like, it's more like I guess if you want to call it a trader's mentality, then you could call it that too. But I'm kind of like just thinking about it in terms of like the Bitcoin cycles, right? So every cycle, every 4-year cycle, Bitcoin makes its bull run, and then usually Bitcoin leads the pack, but then altcoins eventually catch up. And then these other altcoins or shit coins, as Tristan so endearly put it, they tend to outperform Bitcoin in like there's a period of time where these coins outperform Bitcoin, right? So that's kind of the upside that I'm trying to capture. And I agree with what Tristan said earlier, is that I think only Bitcoin is worth holding for the long term, like in between cycles, and then all the other coins that like tend to outperform Bitcoin. Well, they won't. I don't think they'll outperform Bitcoin in the long term. So I'll be looking to sell them as well before the cycle is done. But in terms of Ethereum, I just looked at my Bitcoin and Ethereum bag in my cold storage. I won't tell you how much is in there or what the prices are that I bought them for. But let me just tell you that the percentage gain on my Ethereum position is right now, at least, is bigger than the percentage gain on my Bitcoin position for the coins that I have in cold storage. Now you can make an argument that, like, when did you exactly buy the Ethereum and when did you exactly buy the Bitcoin? Because, like, your entry prices matter, right? Because maybe like you just bought Bitcoin at a bad time when it already started running up and you just so happened to buy Ethereum at a low price. So that's why you're up more on Ethereum. But, you can always make these arguments, and I haven't like researched it that deep into when exactly I made what decision. But I'm just telling you, right now, as of May of 2024, for the coins, I think I started stacking back in 2020. So, throughout 2020 and 2021, the coins that I have stacked, I'm up more on my Ethereum position than I am on Bitcoin. So, this is kind of maybe a plus for Ethereum because it does have the potential to outperform Bitcoin, at least in the short to medium term, right? And this is why I hold Ethereum. I hold some, again, not as much Bitcoin, not as much, I hold less Ethereum than I hold Bitcoin. But this is just, this is just my opinion.